Over the years, Konami has found a lot of different creative ways to limit players on their effects. You have different types of once per turn effects, you have different requirements for activations, maybe you have to discard a card, maybe you have to send a card to the graveyard, all sorts of things that Konami can do and add to cards to not make them as overpowered. But by far the most extreme example of a restriction on a card is a once per duel effect. This is an effect that no matter how many copies you have, no matter how you recycle the card, you are only ever allowed to use that effect once in that entire duel. At the moment, there are a little bit over 30 different cards with once per duel abilities, and you might think that they're all super overpowered, but that's not really the case. You certainly have a bunch of really good once per duel effects and some great ones, but you also have things like Constellar Tempest, which are absolutely terrible. In today's video, I'm going to go over the top 5 once per duel effects. These are some really strong cards. Almost all of them have seen widespread competitive use in multiple formats, and that makes them so much better than the other once per duel cards. Oh, and by the way, don't get too caught up with the individual rankings of the cards in today's video. At least 3 of them are on about the same power level in terms of how strong they actually are, so just try to think of this video as a collection of really powerful once per duel abilities. First up, we have Abyssactor Curtainraiser, a level 4 dark monster that is a fiend monster with a pendulum scale of 7. This has 1100 attack points and 1000 defense points, and the pendulum effect is where we'll find that once per duel ability. If you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your pendulum zone. You can only use this effect of Abyssactor Curtainraiser once per duel. The monster effect of this card doesn't really matter, but it does say gains 1100 attack if you control no other monsters. Once per turn, you can send one Abyss script spell from your deck to the graveyard, add one face-up Abyssactor Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. Now here's the thing, Abyssactors are not the greatest strategy. They have seen a little bit of competitive experimentation, so for Curtainraiser, all that really matters is that it was a pendulum monster that you could special summon with 0 setup. Now why might that matter? Well, when Heavy Metal Foe's Electromite was still in the game, whether or not it was at 3 copies or 1 copy, it doesn't really matter. When that card was still legal, almost every single pendulum deck just wanted to summon it as early and often as possible. One of the ways that you could do that was by putting in many pendulum monsters into your strategy that actually could just summon themselves for free, and Curtainraiser really is one of the best monsters that falls under those criteria. I will say we pretty much won't see this card until Electromite comes back, because that's pretty much all it was used for. Pretty much as soon as Electromite got banned, we never saw Curtainraiser in any pendulum decks anymore. Next up, we have Preta Cobra, a very important half of a very strong Preta opening. So Preta Cobra is a plant monster, a dark level 3 plant monster with 1000 attack and 1500 defense. This thing has a very simple ability. It says, if this card is special summoned by the effect of a Preta monster, you can add one Polymerization spell card or Fusion spell card from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Preta Cobra once per duel. There are so many insanely powerful cards that you can search with Cobra, and it's really easy to set up. Things like Brilliant Fusion back when that was legal, things like Instant Fusion and Super Polymerization. This really was one of the craziest once per duel effects in many strategies. The other half of the combo is Preta Scorpio, a level 3 plant monster that says, if this card is normal or special summoned, you can send one monster from your hand to the graveyard, special summon one Preta monster from your deck, except Preta Scorpio. You can only use this effect of Scorpio once per turn. So basically, you would play 3 copies of Scorpio, maybe 3 copies of Lone Fire Blossom, and just that 1 copy of Cobra to special summon from your deck and get all of your combos going. And it was really strong as well, because now you have 2 level 3 monsters on the board. There were just so many insane combos that you could do, not only in theory, but also ones that actually saw a bunch of competitive play using these 2 cards. Preta as an actual dedicated strategy have not seen a lot of success, but between these 2 cards and the new Preta Anaconda, they have a lot of really powerful monster cards that can go into a lot of different strategies. Next up, we have a card that is currently banned, Blackwing Steam the Cloak. Now you might not realize how powerful this card was, because honestly it didn't really get a chance to shine in the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. This is one of the cards that Konami hit on the ban list 1 week after Hellkey Fibrax was first released, so that it wouldn't just completely ruin the format. Admittedly though, we've now seen what has still happened even with this card banned, and I'm not even sure if it made that big of a difference. Regardless, this is a very powerful once per duel effect. Obviously it is banned, and it has seen some competitive success in the past, although realistically nothing in the past can really compare to how good it would have have been if it wasn't banned right now. Anyway, what does this card do? Well, it is a level 3 Dark Wing Beast tuner monster with 800 attack and 1200 defense, and it says if this face-up card leaves the field, special summon one Steam token, Aqua type Wind, level 1, attack 100, defense 100. If this card is in your graveyard, you contribute one monster, special summon this card from the graveyard. You can only use this effect of Steam the Cloak once per duel. If this card summoned this way is used as a Synchro Material monster, all other Synchro Material monsters must be Blackwing monsters. Keep in mind that when this card was released, which was back in 2014, that very last part of its effect, that huge restriction, actually mattered a lot more because we didn't have Link monsters by that point. What really breaks this card is cards like Crystron Helki Firebrax, and it really is one of the best cards, not only to make the Helki Firebrax because it is a 1 card into that, but also it's one of the best cards to summon off of the Helki Firebrax as well. The token summoning effect of this card has no restrictions. There's no once per turn, there's no once per duel. That part is just as many times as this card leaves the field. That is a pretty big deal and made for some pretty insane combos with Helki Firebrax, and I think that Konami did the right thing by banning this card, because basically in many of the combos, this is a Jet Synchron that doesn't require a discard to actually work. If you think the Jet Synchron combos are broken already, which they absolutely are, this was even better because you didn't have to lose 1 card out of your hand. Next up, we have, what's this? Another Blackwing monster. Yep, Blackwing Zephyrus the Elite. Oh man, is this card insane. I love this card. I'm a huge fan of it. So this is a level 4 Winged Beast monster that is a dark monster with 1600 attack points and 1000 defense. This card is really old. It came out all the way back in 2011, so almost 10 years ago, and it's been used in a lot of different strategies. Not only Blackwings, I mean it's okay in Blackwings, but this card has been used in a bunch of other combos because of how powerful its once per duel ability is. So what does this thing do? Well, it says if this card is in your graveyard, you can return 1 face-up card you control to the hand, special summon this card, and if you do, take 400 damage. You can only use this effect of Zephyrus the Elite once per duel. And trust me, I get it. This effect doesn't seem that powerful. Just bouncing back one of your own face-up cards just to put this thing on the board doesn't seem that strong, but where this card really shines is in its ability to recycle very powerful face-up cards, usually face-up spell cards. So for example, I remember using this card way back in the day in a crazy combo deck that abused Blackwing Zephyrus the Elite to use Future Fusion multiple times in the same turn. This is of course before the Future Fusion errata. More recently, you saw this card in almost every single Lunalight deck over the past year because you could bounce Lunalight Tiger with it and it put a free body on the board for Link monsters or rank 4 monsters, but just in general, it's a very dangerous card to have in the game, and Konami definitely made the right choice here, making it a once per duel effect. Before I go to my number 1 spot, I want to do one honorable mention, and that is Dotscaper. So this card actually has seen a little bit of competitive success. It's been played in a few combo decks, like that crazy second place Thunder Dragon deck that Jesse Cotton played at YCS Sydney a few years ago, and this thing is really good. This is a level 1 Cybers monster with 0 attack and 2100 defense, and it is an earth monster as well. This thing says if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this card. If this card is banished, you can special summon this card. You can only use 1 Dotscaper effect per turn, and only once that turn, you can only use each effect of Dotscaper once per duel. So you do get sort of a double once per duel effect here, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, this thing actually was played in Thunder Dragons. It was pretty popular in Block Dragon Burning Abyss. We've seen it in other decks, but those are like the main 2 that I think of when I'm thinking about Dotscaper, and even though this card hasn't seen as much success, it certainly is very powerful and could definitely see play in the future in some crazy combo strategy. And finally, my number 1 choice for the most powerful once per duel effect in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Spore and Glow Up Bulb. So this is kind of cheating, right? Putting 2 monsters at the number 1 spot, but for the longest time, these cards always went hand in hand. I know they weren't released in the same set, but they were both released in 2010. They were oftentimes played alongside each other with Lone Fire Blossom and Dandelion in a lot of decks, and these cards really were the biggest once per duel effects for a very long time. Both of these are level 1 plant tuner monsters that have been on and off the ban list multiple times, and right now Glow Up Bulb is actually currently banned because it was too powerful with Crystron Helki Firebrax, very similar to Steam the Cloak, which we talked about just a few minutes ago. Anyway, Spore says if this card is in your graveyard, you can banish 1 other plant type monster from your graveyard, special summon this card from your graveyard, and increase increase its level by the level of that banished monster. Each player can only activate the effect of Spore once per duel. That is a very, very good effect, or at least it was for a long time. You could use this really easily as a level 1 tuner and then immediately banish perhaps a Lone Fire Blossom from your graveyard that you used to special summon the Spore in the first place. So it was really easy to bring out a bunch of Synchro monsters using Spore and its level modulation ability. On the other hand, Glow Up Bulb says if this card is in your graveyard, you can send the top card of your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon this card. You can only use this effect of Glow Up Bulb once per duel. In both of these cases, you can use them for a Synchro summon or a Link summon or whatever, and then immediately bring them back with their own abilities. Spore takes a little bit more setup, it requires another plant monster in the graveyard, whereas Glow Up Bulb takes no setup whatsoever, which is probably why right now it is currently banned. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching today's discussion video on the top 5 once per duel effects in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.